a lot of other experiences, but in many ways is entirely separate. So let's begin here, Carolyn. You left off talking about this two identity, almost like the dichotomy thing going on as you were growing up, where in one hand you were in school being viewed as one way, on another side you were on a swim team and in sports being viewed in an entirely different way. And this has become something you've processed for yourself and also something that you have seen that they do in others. So why don't you go ahead and talk about that a little bit?
Well, I noticed in first grade, I knew as early as first grade that I was not to appear to be intelligent. People were not supposed to know of my special abilities. And I was supposed to be ordinary, completely ordinary, and below level in academics, which completely frustrated me. And, well, in fact, I was actually allowed to express myself in writing and in art and music to a degree. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't promoted, the music part. But I did get accused of, or my mother got accused of doing my artwork as early as third grade and doing my writing as early as second grade. And my mother was like, I mean, she was a highly intelligent person and was actually above, I don't think she was genius, but she was pretty up there and had some degrees. So anyway, that was quite a statement to say that, for people to say that it was my mother that was doing my work, mm-hmm. artwork and writing, but they didn't want to believe that I was capable of anything else in the school system. So what happened was, first of all, what I noticed is in numbers. I realized that in first grade that when people were starting to add, we were learning how to add digits. I was looking at numbers. See, I can look at it now and know what happened. I was looking at numbers, adding them according to numerology. Nobody taught me numerology in the physical that I remember. Either I was taught it out of body or that's from programming, but I knew it. And I also numbers had personalities to me. And depending on what numbers you paired together, you come up with a different solution. So that set me behind until I figured out what these people were doing, what the teachers were teaching. Then I caught on. Well, by then I was behind schedule. I also developed or it was developed for me, a block in math. I've had doctors throughout my life tell me, hey, you have a block in math. Let's try to get you out of it. For some reason, I don't want to. It's like I put a block up against that. Well, it's probably programming. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I have found that there are other people who have had the same problem. And also in the school systems, I have heard of other instances, just as myself. Well, I'm back to the junior high part now, where every single year I would take an aptitude test, just like the other kids would. I was put each time into the special classes, special ed classes. And it was so humiliating to me because I knew I wasn't stupid. And I didn't think those kids were either, but the point was that I was getting ostracized. No one wanted to be around me because they thought I was stupid. And I just knew I could do better. It was very, very hard on me. Well, what would happen is within a few weeks later, I guess it was my mother insisting because I insisted how unhappy I was in the other classes and I wasn't learning. I actually wanted to learn and I wasn't learning. So my mother probably said something. I'm not sure if that was up to her or whatever, but what happened was I would end up getting put back into regular classes and sometimes accelerated. But I would have 3 weeks to catch up. It never dawned on me then that I must be intelligent enough that I could actually not only catch up, but make up 3 weeks or more of lost work, but I could keep up with the group. The exception was math. Although it seemed that I did have a desire for geometry and algebra, and at one point I could solve the problems in my head, but then when I was told I had to do the formulas, I didn't really want to do the formulas, so that was a problem. Okay, so for the way I was looked at in school, I was completely discouraged by my family for any femininity, while the other girls in elementary school, 5th and 6th grade, were going without their socks and wearing shorter skirts, and and actually some of them were shaving their legs as young as 5th grade. I was discouraged from having any kind of frills. I had to wear long skirts, clunky shoes. I was muscular because I was athletic, and perhaps maybe I was being messed with the drugs drug enhancements. It appears that I probably was, more male hormones. So I was a hairy young lady. I was bulky, hairy. I had a unibrow, and I had 4 outfits to wear.
Wow.
Now, I came from an upper middle class neighborhood, but most of the kids didn't know I came from that neighborhood. In fact, people didn't even know that my brother was my brother. He was very, very popular. But we lived in the same house. Nobody knew we were from the same house. So it's just so strange when I look back at it, but I know why they did this. And it was because I was not supposed to appear, like they told me from the beginning, I was not supposed to appear intelligent. I was not supposed to be attractive, at least at that point, and it did start to change later. And I mean, it was a terribly lonely existence. So I guess the point what I wanted to also make in there is with the math, that it isn't. A lot of times the kids will excel in math, and they're supposed to be smart in math, and then that's one of the desirable qualities for the Illuminati training. But what we're also finding, and speaking with other people I know, that it's sometimes math is a block on the physical level, so it can be a cover for some of their other work. So maybe another alter possibly could be doing well in math. But what they do is they sculpt a person from childhood to what they want it to be as they get older. And I'm not sure if they feel like they failed with me on certain levels or what. All I can do is, what I'm going to do is just tell my story as it comes along and the facts of my life, and people can understand. Maybe they can grasp something that sounds familiar that they're going through, because there are a lot of people that are coming out now and realizing that they're victims also.
Yes.
There are few people my age that have made it through because of their suicidal programming, or perhaps they've just been ousted some other way. But there are younger people coming out that are realizing some of their programming is breaking down, and they're wondering, am I normal? What happened? Am I crazy? So that's another reason why I'm coming out to tell my story, is if somebody can find something that looks familiar and they start piecing their own story together. So I may touch on subjects that don't even appear like that it makes a difference, but that's the reason I'm doing it. And also to show that how my life, as crazy as it may seem, how many different things that my life has touched on, it's all true. I mean, it's amazing. The people that have come in my life, the things I've experienced, but it's all true, so I'm going to mention it.
Amen.
And then we'll be able to see the progression of why I how I ended up as high in the organization as I was, and what it took to get me out. Because if I can get out of it, if I can be convinced, anybody can.
Amen.
That's
wow.
A lot of talking.
Well, thank you for putting that out there. And this is a really interesting thing that I think needs to be said. And someone may hear this and say, that sounds like my situation. And what really strikes me is the whole representations of numbers that you mentioned when you first began to try to deal with them, especially in light of how you had explained to us in the first program that you were being taken out of body to school literally in the spirit, being taught things. And that is just very interesting